fiery. We didn't even really talk about real estate, but hey, we're living in a pop culture world, and we're really getting down to the bottom of it. What is
and we're also selling houses.
Oh yeah, we sell houses too.
Under all is the land, the real estate. Courtney and friends about to show you how to generate wealth. Get educated, do for yourself. Add a couple notches to your belt. Under all is the land. Under all is the land. The real under all is the land. Under all is the land. The real estate. Coming to you live from ACME Real Estate in Los Angeles, California.
I'm Courtney Poulos. Welcome to Under All is the Land. I'm here with my rock star co-stars, Silke Fernald.
Hi.
And Dominique Madden.
Hello.
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Here we are in our first summer edition. Are you feeling summery?
We're feeling summery. Let's talk about Love Island.
Yeah. Love Island.
Should kick off the summer.
Yeah. Yeah. What is
Wait, have
going
you
on?
been watching?
No.
Not UK or US?
No.
Okay, but how many are there?
This is what doesn't make sense to me. They bring on both at the same time instead of staggering them. If I were the Love Island producers, I would do seasonal countries. You know what I mean? Like Love Island US, then Love Island UK, and just keep people watching all year.
Does Love
so
Island
they're all
feel
at the
like
same
real
time.
estate? Like you're working in a real estate? Like, can you relate it to real estate?
No.
Okay.
Because they are in one villa all together. I mean, it is a villa, but the platform is also like unrealistic because they have to leave it open so everybody sees everything, you know?
It's like a sound stage.
You know what? I
It's like
guess
a giant sound stage where you like look into the room.
you could relate it to real estate because it's like open floor plans.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like open floor
I
plans.
was thinking
It's
more like, you know, when you are, say, going to a listing presentation, right? Like you think like, oh, maybe I got this, just connected, just had a connection, just sat in the connection corner or whatever they call it. And I like, you know, was canoodling with the like, and then you see the other chick walk up and she looks at you and says something like, I had a feeling.
Taken out of a real
You know, when you're like, oh, maybe my seller clients are, you know, shopping for other fish in this sea. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Awkward interactions,
yeah,
right?
there's a Love Island connection.
There's one
there.
villa, right? We got one listing.
Wow, I like
Just
it.
making stuff up, but
But
you
people
know.
aren't trying to win the villa. They're trying to win the hearts.
Well,
Well,
we
it's the
can
people
see.
who choose, and if the people, you know, it's the people that own the villa.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's more of a
I get
better-
it. No, I know where you're going. I
know
get
what I'm
it.
saying?
Yeah, I totally do.
I do
Back-
feel
back
like
to
when
the fact
when
that-
the industry gets a little scarce, like claws come out.
Yes.
You know, there's definitely a.
Also, how about it? You have an interview somewhere and then you see other agents coming. It's
Yeah.
like a little...
Yeah.
You couldn't leave like a half hour in between so we don't run into each other?
Well,
Seller,
I'm sure that the
not
seller probably
cool.
thought he was, but you know,
Oh, leaving enough time?
we had a lot to say.
I see. And he wasn't like, it's time. Someone else is
See,
coming.
what happens on Love Island is if there are two people talking and someone wants to butt in, they say, excuse me, can we have a chat?
Oh.
Do you mind if I pull in for a chat?
Ooh.
Yo.
Pulling
Now,
in
if
for a
realtors
chat,
did that, we'd have to smack a bitch.
we'd be fighting.
Yeah.
I know.
we'd
I
have to
remember
smack a
that you
bitch.
Scratch
had
her.
Meek had this great idea a long time ago of like boxing. Was it realtor boxing?
There we go.
Maybe
yeah.
for charity.
Oh.
You know.
Hey, you know what? After a tough transaction, you just say, look, let's box it out, do it friendly. Afterwards,
Teeth would
We're
be
all good.
flying.
Oh my God.
Get your dentist lined up.
For real. I mean, listen, you know, I always say LA is like the NFL of real estate, which I stand behind. But there is, it's like a certain type of personality that has to have a little mix of delusion with some ambition that can even like survive this
Yeah.
in any industry. I was out to dinner last night. We were talking about how one thing about like, you know, dating in LA, because we were out to dinner with a client who had just recently, you know, acquired a boyfriend.
acquired a boyfriend.
And he's not from here, right? But she was like, you know,
On Love
like
Island?
dating, no. But dating in LA, you know, it's like you literally, the odds of you going on a date with somebody who's delusional
Are pretty high.
pretty high.
Okay.
And that's weird. You know,
Yeah.
like that's not true everywhere. Like you meet a guy who's a carpenter, he's a carpenter, you know, but in LA you meet somebody who's like, I'm an actor, which only like 5% of people can make a living at. She happens to be an actor, so she's delusional too. So you sometimes, I mean, she's a working actress, but it's like the delusion of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? There's like working actors and then they're like mega stars, which I'm sure comes with its own trash anyway, like privacy issues and, you know, whatever, other pressures. But ultimately, at the end of the day, there aren't enough jobs for the people trying to apply for them. So if you really can make it into this industry, you have to have this mix of delusion and ambition. And then in real estate, it's the same way, I think. Like some of the more successful agents that I know have a very strong mix of delusion and ambition. And when you put those two chemistries in a final walkthrough environment, for example, sometimes that shit gets real. Sometimes it gets really real. I remember this one agent saying to my client who was like the seller, like talking to him like talking so down to him like he was a child, to the point where I had to step in and be like, hey, like I'm like feeling like a mom now too. Like you can't talk to my client that way.
Yeah,
you know,
just,
like
yes.
Oh my God, do we need to have a moment? Do we need to step outside? I mean, it was like really close to boxing, really about to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it can get intense.
I will say this, you know, with a lot of those situations, I feel like it's kind of like bad kids who have been left unchecked, and then once you check them, they get into line.
settle down.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. You know, it's like people who give you attitude, and then once you spit it back at them, and they know yours is real, it's like, oh, I must have lit a fire. My apologies. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah. Be
exactly.
sorry, because this is wrapped up in a nice package, but if you let the bomb explode, it's gonna explode. You know what I mean?
I think anybody who knows you and has seen the bomb explode would be able to testify. You do not want to get on the wrong side of Dominique, my Atlanta.
But you know, I do love that people in LA do have like a little delusion, right? Because like they're the people who left whatever towns they're from and saw beyond those restrictions that most people couldn't see beyond, you know? And that's the beauty of it. It's like people who see something bigger than just settling for the norm.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a city of non-basic bitches. I love that.
I love that
I love
too.
that so
It's
much.
It's a haven of creativity and all kinds of different people who just trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
The
It's
question
hustling.
is,
You know, the
dreamers.
hustle is real, but it's also intense and sometimes very draining.
Yeah, it's my delusion versus your delusion.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
Okay, so I've been seeing a lot of Meghan Markle in the news, right? Like people didn't like her little like twerking video where she was pregnant, and people are not Candace Owens said yesterday, like she needs brand clarity because she's trying to be Martha Stewart and the girl from like Jenny from the Block at the same time, and it's like not working.
Yes.
But there was this really funny like South Park like clip in somebody's and it was like, we're going on a worldwide privacy tour, and I do feel like sometimes that's kind of also part of that my delusion versus your delusion, where you're like, you know, like I need my privacy, you know. I'm just in LA, like we have to put so much of our lives on social media, so I'm gonna put on social media that I need my privacy. You know what I mean? Like that kind of delusion.
Also the delusion of like, who cares?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's social
it's
media
no one
too.
cares. It is true.
Nobody really cares. Like
Right.
I'll post something, I'm like, that's cute, but nobody cares. Nobody really cares. Why would you care? Why would you? Unless you love me. Why do you care? You don't care.
It is weird how much attention people pay to Meghan Markle. You know? Like,
well, we're talking about it right now.
yeah, like, but I don't, like, I literally know nothing about her aside from the fact that she's married to Prince Harry and is mixed.
Okay, well, let me school
That's
you.
it. That's all.
She came out, and I think people really had her back. But then, when she started to talk shit about the royal family, which the Brits didn't like, and then they started on this whole thing about like, we just want our privacy. But she is on every podcast right now. She's putting private videos on social media. She's created a brand. They got a big Netflix deal. He got a show. She got a couple shows. They're super insincere and inauthentic. Like she's like popping popcorn, like it's like creating something new. And I love to put sprinkles on everything and like doing the most. And you're like, and she's like, let me take you out to my like fresh, like get some fresh honey. But it's like, you know, she's trying to be Gwyneth Paltrow. She created a brand called As Ever, and she sells jam because, you know, jam is her jam.
Oh, I didn't even
It's
know
just
that.
very
Okay.
self-referential.
Yes, it's like
Right.
Okay. She's
Yeah.
trying to be goop.
She's trying to be goop.
Okay.
So, but simultaneously, she's also, trying to be relatable by showing like her twerking when she's pregnant, in the delivery room, and it's just kind of like off like color. It's like several years ago. It's not giving relatable. It's giving try hard, So that's why people are talking about that. But again, just to relate it back to real estate, it's there's that temptation. Social media is such a delusion. I'm talking about delusion. Like, there's our competence. Like, I'm not delusional about the fact that I can run an excellent transaction, that I love the company we've built. Like, I am not delusional about that. But when it comes to social media, it's like, am I doing this for me? Am I doing this for you? Is this adding any value? Is this meant to be funny? Now it's supposed to be shareable. I'm like, I don't know if I'm shareable. Nobody's shareable. Like, a few pretty houses are shareable. It's such a shit show. So I think it really leans into like real estate agent delusion when you look at people's social media. There's a lot of that Meghan Markle vibe in there. Probably on mine too. I'm not even excluding myself.
Maybe it's because people are so discouraged from being themselves and being outward and trying to fit into these little boxes of perfection. You know what I mean? Like, so much so that her doing a twerking video because she's leaned so hard into that Martha Stewart lane is off-brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When that probably is her. And that Martha Stewart
probably
person
not
is
her.
probably not her.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
She thinks, that's what she
Yeah.
thinks she
But
wants to be or has to be.
When your
Right.
business
It's an
and your
interesting-
identity are like, we're all turning into branded identities, kind of.
Which is sad.
It's like
sad.
you used to be able to separate business and marketing, personal life. And now it's like they're starting, it's like Meghan Markle as a celebrity is a brand. I guess that's not new, like if you're naming your person, but even us individually, people who don't have millions of followers are just, doing a really great job at selling real estate, now have to be conscious of how we're seen, like, because even our personal stuff is part of our brand. I have a question for you guys, because this came up in an AI conversation. Something that has been coming up in light of like global events, right? Is this concept of like the ever present. Like, I don't know if you've have you seen any of the Instagrams or TikToks where they're like, you guys remember, right? Like the Horn of Plenty with Fruit of the Loom, but now they're telling us that never existed. Or you remember when Disney had Tinkerbell dot the I? Now they're telling us online that never existed. It's like they're trying, like the internet is trying to wipe our collective memory of things. Okay,
How could that even be possible though?
we all remember it.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Like, how could anyone even think that they could clear your memory of a memory, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
They're trying to call it the Mandela effect, saying that there are like mass memory failures. Okay,
That's so crazy.
no, this is a thing. This is actually real. Look it up. There are many TikToks about it because they keep coming up with new things that you remember. Like, I can visualize Disney and Tinkerbell and her flying across and bink. Like, I can see it, as can many people.
And,
Right.
that
And
there's
they're saying
also a
online,
thing.
it's like wiped. It's not there.
You can YouTube it and it'll show up. Like it exists.
Oh, you've YouTubed that?
No, but you can.
No, they're saying it's
Find
wiped.
it.
Like, basically, the people on TikTok are picking things that if you Google them
They're no
or you
longer
try to
there.
find them, they're still like not there.
Oh.
So there's this idea that, and
sounds like
this
a
could go
little bit
so
of a
much darker.
conspiracy
There's
theory.
like Palantir, there's like all these things happening, but this idea that there's like kind of like tests going on right now about how far you'll let your privacy go. Were certain global affairs kind of like setups to create a demand that we want this intervention by like AI. So in the big beautiful bill, there's like a 10-year AI exemption from accountability kind of a thing in there that nobody's really talking about, but they should be. Some people are, but anyway, look up Palantir. I digress. Are you the kind of person who believes in every moment is a new moment of creation, or are you the kind of person who believes in like never forget, or something in the middle, which is like never forget, but also don't let the memory of a thing like affect the future idea?
More like that.
More like that. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's also, so this idea of the now, like the now moment being like is a pure there is no historical reality.
No.
Everything is debatable.
Not really.
Everything is maybe remembered incorrectly. You can't trust your memory. So
Not
every new
really.
moment
I
there
think-
could be that's
Yeah.
what the future now is, or like the ever present now is. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Interesting.
That's what some people are suggesting they're trying to do with these like
Well, I guess you know,
AI and stuff.
what is legitimate about that is that, right, like people's memories are from their perspective versus an outside perspective, right? That's like seeing the holistic view. So like even if you look at history and how it's recorded, well, who recorded it?
Right.
You
Totally.
know, like it is flawed.
It is
It is
flawed.
flawed.
Yeah.
So it is,
But
but your own memory, I think,
Yeah.
is something that people can't question,
Right.
right?
But
How
what
you
if somebody
perceived
plants
an
a memory?
experience.
But there are collective memories
What
and
if
there are
they
things.
plant a memory or
Right.
replace a planted memory?
Well, then you wouldn't know,
is-
would you?
Well, for example, like in your education system, right? Like, you know, there are suggestions that curriculum, you know, which obviously there is a board that sits around and goes, okay, we're going to allow this narrative for this historical event versus this narrative for a historical event.
Or there's the open discussion about looking at both sides.
Nobody has that, Silke. Who has that? Who has that?
There aren't allowed
I
to be
would-
two
I would
sides these
understand.
days.
Haven't you seen like
would
videos of like that's
understand
very like
That
optimistic of you or
in
something?
universities, I mean, people discuss different options. It's not
That's
you
what
don't
you
get
think.
learn into like, you know, even my daughter in high school. I mean, they discuss different. There's always like who's for the subject, who's going against it, and now argue and like they nurture thinking.
Right.
You know, there are platforms. I
Yeah,
will
there
say,
are. Like
there's,
I remember in high school, I
Jubilee.
felt like that too.
Yeah,
like I felt like I could argue. my
Jubilee
point of
is a
view.
YouTube channel where they set people up who have different perspectives and have open conversations. Like they'll
Right.
ask prompts, and then the different people can talk about their different perspectives on
Right.
that thing.
Right.
And they bring in people who they know are on different sides of the fence. But it's not like a hostile conversation.
Right.
Right,
It's
which
like-
is how
it
it
can't-
used to be.
And that's
I
how it
feel like
should
it
be.
kind of like in the 90s, my experience of being in college, for example, like definitely had that component to it. But then when you see what's happening now, you might go, there seem to be political
agenda.
forces, financing, all these interventions preventing. And maybe it's because there's violence and other things involved that aren't exactly civilized conversation.
Right.
Okay, to be fair.
Right.
So it's like you can't have a civilized conversation when you're pushing me or setting the building I am paying to go to this building for school. You're setting that shit on fire. Not the best way to have a like civilized conversation about two sides of the same story, or whatever. But I still feel that there are ramifications to having like any kind of opinion against whatever. Like for example, I love what's happening with Maha movement. I personally have always been a Rasta. I've always been on the side of like least medical interventions possible, super suspicious of the COVID vaccine, didn't buy what people were selling, definitely felt like it was not my job to put my opinions on social media. Still to this moment feel like it's still something that if I'm like, yay, go Maha, you know, like there's gonna be some pushback, somebody who really isn't my body, my choice, who really doesn't believe what they're pushing on this other side of a different same narrative. Like I still have to censor my true feelings about certain things in this environment. You know what I'm
Because
saying?
everything is so political.
It's so political.
We can't just talk about health without
It
calling
being-
it a color, which is so wrong.
Yeah, so wrong.
Like, can we just keep the health out of
But the thing is,
but it's not. It's all intertwined, and that's why
health
it's hard.
is not
and
political. It should not be
but
political.
but it is. It
But it
shouldn't
should
be,
not be.
but it is, and that's why we don't feel about like. That's the thing. I'm like, just try to stay away from it online. There is nothing
But
good
that's
comes
also
from that.
ultimately disempowerment.
It does-
too,
yes,
if
it's
you
true.
Run
It's true.
from having an opinion
Right.
because your fear of the backlash for being
Right.
in your authenticity.
Yeah.
Then
that
the
is-
robots win.
That is exactly what. That's what social
robots
media
win.
is, though. That's exactly it.
I know. And so this
And-
is where the part is like where we used to be able to have a civilized conversation. Now, if you post something maybe authentic, there are bots at work. there's your own whatever brainwashing is happening in your or I should say people, what do they call it whenever confirmation bias, when you only listen to news sources that agree with you, or you only hang out with people who endorse
Agree with you.
but never actually have that conversation. It just makes us all shut down. And then what's safe for me to talk about?
Right, that's the thing.
Work,
yes.
money. That's it.
That's the thing. Yeah. This is social media, right? And social media is an unsafe place for people to, fully express themselves, because you have people who can hide in anonymity, and who find their collective, like people who are on the same boat as them. So it's like you post something and 10 people who are like, anti whatever you just said can hop in your comment section and affect you.
Right.
Or so they think, right?
Right.
In reality, like if we got out of social media and into spaces, into our office space, having real conversations.
Dude did come into our office space. Do you remember that?
I'm saying most people wouldn't have that same energy that they have online to be as aggressive contentious and aggressive
nasty,
and you know what I mean?
Trolly,
But I also feel like there's a general lack of emotional intelligence in the world today. Because so many people aren't out in the world experiencing other people and their emotions and learning from that and learning how people operate and who people are and being exposed to things, that people are so easily offended.
Okay, let's be there for a second. It's like there's a lack of humanity in it, no?
Yeah, lack of humanity,
we're
lack of
running
intelligence.
From our basic human condition and leaning into the like button. But even beyond social media, like in our daily lives, even the positions we hold on things. I remember a long, long time ago having some kind of a religious I'm talking about 20, 30 years ago, having like a religious debate with somebody. And I'm like, have you read other books, other religious books?
Right.
And the answer was no. So I'm like, then how can we even have a conversation about this?
Right. And that's confirmation bias right there.
Exactly.
That is literally them saying those other books aren't worth me reading and investigating because I'm going to believe
that
solely
and that
this.
only.
Yeah, because I was fed this particular thing.
Yeah.
This person was brainwashed at one point.
Right.
This is the lane you're in.
Right.
And that to me is difficult when adults don't see beyond that and say, okay, I might want to open my mind and maybe educate myself, start traveling. I love, it's funny when people who've never left the United States try telling you about other people on other continents and other religions. I'm like, how are you even
having an opinion?
How are you even having an opinion?
Right.
It just makes you sound like a complete idiot to talk about something you've never set foot outside this country.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's hard for me to I almost feel like I don't even want to talk to people like that.
But this is what I'm saying.
It doesn't.
It just.
But it's just
this is what I'm just noticing it. I'm just kind of noticing it because we have a lot of hyper political agitation going on right now.
Right.
And it is dangerous. Like it just feels like I'm supposed to shut down. I'm like, is that what they were trying to do? Is that what the point of it all is? It's to make me numb, make me so afraid of losing business for having my own opinion about something I truly deeply feel, or to make me afraid to fight with my sister about something because we can't because it's so polarizing that we can't even have a civilized conversation about it, so we're just not going to talk about it. So they can make these big decisions and there's nobody left passionate enough to fight back. Or something.
Well, I think that's all social. I think that's what social media did. It's so
social
weird.
media,
because
and
before social media, there were so many
like
things
that.
we didn't even know because you got your news from 5 different channels back in the 80s. It was whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right, it wasn't like a 24-hour.
It was
news
a thing,
cycle.
and it was just different. You knew more what your people around you were doing. It was so much more. The world was small. It was tiny.
Yeah.
It was so small. And if you didn't travel, you didn't know how even other countries looked like. Now everybody knows everything because it's everywhere.
Well, this is the thing.
So
people think they know everything. They think they know things from 10-second clips.
They think they know.
And then they run with that narrative from whoever put that out.
The options, it's limitless now to educate yourself, to travel, to see things, to get opinions. It's like everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's how it is now.
Yeah, and it's overwhelming.
The world is in your pocket, on your phone, the entire world. It's right there.
But You
but-
threw
but-
the
and
entire
that-
world
and I
right
think-
there.
but
No
I
one
think-
does their research.
Yeah, but I
That's
think-
it. It's
yeah.
like if you Google something and you're limiting yourself to the first 2 pages of information on that,
Right.
that's already been audited.
That's
scrubbed,
sponsored. That's paid for.
sponsored,
Yeah.
Yeah.
paid for. Wikipedia has been modified. Like
Yeah.
that's.
But this is what I'm
shit
saying.
Is
It is so
already not
difficult.
true.
It is so difficult now. That's why we're at this point where everybody's just almost like a communication breakdown. It's almost like when the cables are not firing. You're like,
Right.
we don't
Right.
know.
Like numb,
everything
like
is
paralyzed.
just. What do I do? You know, that kind of.
Yeah.
So
and
what
we're on
do you
this,
do?
I
don't
feel like
know.
we're in this
I
like
think
little
we're going,
experiment.
Yeah, but
right
I also
now.
feel like that we're maybe this whole extreme that's been happening with this. I think there will be a time when people go back to the basics.
We hope so.
That's what I think.
I
Because
hope so.
I think I
don't
know
know.
that this is the next
I don't
move
know.
will
Well,
be.
this is like
When people
okay,
don't know what the
that's-
basic look like,
well, but
how
we-
do they go back to
Okay,
that?
Well,
this
You
is
know
a
what I
good
mean?
point.
But
So
it
bringing this,
regulates
tying this
itself,
to
right?
real estate, for example.
Okay.
People are having this conversation. I don't know if you guys saw the story about the AI robot in Portugal who sold $300 million in real estate, supposedly. Right?
Oh, okay.
Like whatever. Like you can feed contract documents into ChatGPT and have it analyze them for you. Okay, first of all, I don't trust ChatGPT with anything. It's wrong. It's
is
like
wrong.
frequently incorrect. And we're feeding it with our mind. We talked about this before. It's like the kind of like it's not right.
It's
you
not
know?
right. It also pulls wrong
It's not-
data
It
sometimes.
pulls wrong
I
data.
had
It says wrong
Yeah, I had
things.
to tell
It's
me
like they're
whatever.
very wrong. I would
digress-
never let
yeah.
it review a contract.
No.
No. But the part of our jobs where we get paid the big bucks that AI cannot do is the human interaction part.
Right.
And it will never be smart enough to do that. No
Right.
matter what anybody tells me, I know for a fact, even if it could break down my, I could type in and be like, hey, draft an offer. Like I could send it off to a VA even, or whatever. Like it's easy to make a robot fill out a form for you, a pre-printed form. But I know what it's not going to do is be able to convince a particular seller that he needs to pay the extra $500 to get the good staging after 48 hours of text messages. You know what I mean? Like I know it's not going to be able to do that. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, but there
Yes.
are people who don't understand that. I just saw an article about a guy who has proposed to his AI chatbot.
I saw that.
You saw that?
Oh my God.
And then apparently it was very emotional when it said yes, like fully
This
emotionally
has to be
invested.
fake.
Well,
I'm
this
like,
is
how
obviously
can
fake.
this be real?
I mean,
This can't be
I
real.
watched a video
or
on
that
it. He
man
was
has
talking
mental
about-
health issues.
No, I'm sure the video exists. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that I don't think it's like it's an intentional. He's probably figuring
you think
out
it's
how
an
to do-
actor?
It feels like an actor.
Yeah,
I watched the
if
thing and it
it's
just
not
seems
an
so
actor,
fake.
then
I mean,
it's
come
very.
on.
Then if it's not an actor,
But
then
Gotta be kidding
even if
me.
it is an
Then it is
actor, well,
sad.
why is somebody hiring this actor to do this thing?
Right.
It's
Because again,
I
it's
don't
like
know.
they're trying to, even as satirical as
crazy
it
stuff.
could be, it's a humiliation of the human condition. So many things they show us are meant to humiliate us. So many artists that are Sabrina Carpenter's new album cover. Again, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, so these are things people are talking about. Okay, so this is from a particular podcast you're talking about. Sabrina Carpenter, I would have never known, except that people are talking about. It's called Man's Best Friend. Mm-hmm. This is a Disney star, right? So
Yes.
some people's like teenage daughters kind of looked up to her, I guess. Maybe I mean, she danced
they would
around.
now be in their 20s.
She's on her hands and knees with a man standing in front of her. He's pulling her hair, and the album's called Man's Best Friend. Mm-hmm. Like that's humiliating.
She's the dog.
She's the dog.
Okay.
She's the dog.
Maybe she's into role play.
Whatever.
I'm just saying
This isn't
I think you're
feminism. But I mean, even like seeing like
No longer
Sexy
Disney.
Red or opposite of sexy or even
All
like
those
Cardi
Disney
B or
people
all
go
of
the
these.
full other way.
I
though.
know.
She's like she's
They
been
go
into
the
Disney
full
for way
other
too
way.
long. Now we're going the other direction.
Yeah. I mean, even the Diddy trial and them getting more into that stuff, I'm like, it's humiliation. There's humiliation. They're showing us our lowest self, in my opinion. And this is to convince your daughter that she is a hoe, and to convince my daughter that she's a hoe at nature. Okay, and then and then to sell us on. I don't even know where the dignity is left. Actually, I can't find it. But if you're normalizing people falling in love with their AI chatbots, even if it's satirical at first, but you're just introducing the idea, seeing how people relate to that idea, are people criticizing it? Are they making fun of the guy? Are they like whatever? And then it starts to become like, I'm not
Well, I don't know.
having
I think
any of this.
I think most people will think it's either a satirical, an actor, or if he's actually.
Yeah, but
if this is real, then I would say he needs help.
Of course you would say he needs
that
help. 'Cause
would-
but
I
what
don't
if
think
some
anybody
doctor
thinks
says,
that's
well,
normal.
You know, because of the condition of loneliness and our 10 years from now,
Yeah.
like because we're seeing loneliness, there are actually beneficial factors
And
in
this is
having
why I
this
think-
therapeutic AI bot
No.
as opposed to pharmaceutical drugs. This is the new
Whoa.
emotional support AI
Like,
chatbot.
instead of medication.
What if they said
Interesting,
that? Then
though.
would you be like, oh, well, maybe this is a good idea? Because you're so used to medication being okay.
Right.
And being we're prescribing our children with drugs
Yeah.
that even adults can't handle. We're
Yeah.
so okay with that now.
Right.
That having some alternative that's like this thing could become a better looking option. What if that's crazy?
But
I
what?
can see it.
Right.
I can
But
see
then
it.
there's the debate: what is better, talking to?
A human being, like,
Well, that is for sure.
how about having
For
basic,
sure. That's
emotional,
yeah.
in-person relationships? I'm going through this with my son.
Well, let's
Yeah,
talk
but,
about
you know-
that, because I think having emotional relationships with human beings, aka psychiatrists or psychologists or whatever you can talk to for therapy, you have to be able to afford that. That's the next problem. It should be free for everybody, but it's not. And people who can't afford it, they will have to do the cheap AI whatever, or you know what I mean? Like, it's also, it's a thing. You can't, not everybody can afford it.
Well, there
And
are-
that's why food is a problem, because not everybody can buy $10 eggs.
yeah, but you
So
can
they go
buy
for the
$1 of
fucking
seeds
burger.
and plant that shit in your
Well,
backyard.
but
Or you can-
I mean,
you can
seeds
rent
in
a
the
hen.
backyard.
Rent
Good
a
luck.
hen.
So-
I don't buy that.
I don't know.
I don't buy
No,
that.
I
I'm
mean,
sorry, I don't
no.
buy that.
Yeah,
No.
there's definitely
It is
ways. You can
expensive.
get chickens
Not
and you
buying
can
that.
have a coop and you can
Of course
have
you
some
can.
eggs. You know
Here's
what I
the
mean?
thing.
If you
It's
really
like-
We
wanted
can
to
plant
get down
seeds.
to
I
it.
planted seeds in
Well-
second grade for green beans and grew green beans.
Yeah.
You can
Oh my
plant
gosh,
shit in your
my
backyard. We have-
neighbor,
Right.
my neighbor
You will
comes
tell
over.
me right
Better.
now that
My
it's not
neighbor-
cheaper to feed. Okay, you have a family
You're
with
talking to
5
people.
children.
I came from a family that was broke, that had 5 children eating out of a
And
pot.
did you
and we were
eat
fine.
well as a child?
I ate a lot of
Honestly,
rice, but I was
frankly,
fine.
there's
It
a
was
lot
cheap.
of overconsumption right now, and people could use going back to lighter diets
Basics.
like we used to.
I
But
know.
just saying,
Yes.
I
you know.
know
But
we
I
could.
will say this
Vegetables and
too:
rice. That's like what
if
we ate.
There's a
people did,
choice.
there are people who are taking who are making a movement of growing their own sustenance now to combat
See,
the
back to
rising food
basics,
costs,
which is
Right,
incredible.
But
Back
you
to
have
basics.
like my neighbor next door. She comes to my house probably once a week with like an abundance of zucchini or cherry
What?
tomatoes or whatever. She grows so much
That's
in her
awesome.
backyard.
That's
that
awesome.
it's so plentiful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People who have backyards have that opportunity.
Yeah.
If you don't have a backyard, there are vertical gardens
Yeah.
that you can
No,
have
that's
on
what
your
I'm-
porch
this is
in
the
your
back to
apartment
basics
building.
I'm talking- I think
yeah,
exactly.
It's,
There's
you know,
this book
things
called-
are expensive, so I don't want to negate that because
Right.
that is
Beans
true,
aren't,
yeah.
and it is disgusting.
Beans aren't expensive.
You know, but things are expensive. Our
Yes,
sisters,
they are.
childbirth, right? If she hadn't had insurance, $52,000.
I know.
$52,000 to give birth to a child.
Yeah.
Now, thank God for insurance,
Yeah.
and it's subsidizing that. But how much do people have to pay every month for that fucking insurance?
I know.
You know what I mean? It's such a rip. But if we did just get down to the basics, right? We could all be living simpler lives and not be so wrapped up in this fucking overconsumption bullshit that they're constantly pumping to us. You know, we don't need all this shit. We don't need
Right.
it.
So
No,
in my
that's
mind,
true.
I'm
It's-
like,
yeah.
in my mind, I'm like, as opposed to saying like, not everybody can everybody can. My grandparents were farmers. They made their own food. I mean, it was not expensive. It's not expensive. You have to pay for the water. Okay. But, it's definitely cheaper than
It's
buying
cheaper.
food. And
I
in
know a
this
taco
book
truck
called-
on Slauson that every night has $1.25 tacos.
There you go.
I'm just saying, you know?
So there's this book by Matthew Crawford. It's called Shop Class as Soulcraft. And it was written not really recently. But it's basically about creativity, productivity, how, I don't know if it's speaking only to men, but the act of creating. Like we create life, so that's incredible. Men can build, but women could build houses too, but like for men, for their brains, the act of actually doing the thing for yourself, again, the opposite of AI or something plugging into us and stealing our thoughts, our jobs, are everything. But the idea that a man, like your man, could build you a house is empowering. That I could plant a seed that grows a fruit or vegetable that I could feed my family with is empowering. You know, I'm with so much more of that, but the deeper I dive into the AI
That's why
thing,
they take out woodworking, though. That's why
That's
they take
it.
out these things to disempower.
Nico
You know,
said to me, "What if I wanted to go to school to be a carpenter, Mom?" I was like, "I love
that would be
that.
great. Oh my
I
God,
love that.
I love
Yes.
that for
Do
him.
that.
Yeah.
God, I
Do
love
that.
that. I would be
Yeah.
hitting him up for
know.
furniture all day.
Exactly.
Vocation.
And maybe there is already starting the brewing of this, because I'm hearing these concepts of like not giving your kids the phone, like having a phone-free childhood, or you know, I mean, we have the, you know,
Makes sense.
which
Why
makes
should an
total
8-year-old have a
sense.
phone? That's
I didn't
crazy.
have a phone. No.
That's crazy.
I mean, all of it. You're like letting in the monster into your child's bedroom, into their head space, into the mind. I listen to some of these Discord conversations where my son is playing games and I can hear them talking. And I'm like, oh my God, it's sometimes like pretty bad. And he's 16 now, so we can kind of like, you know, he can tell the difference, you know, whatever. But I'm like, this is dangerous. You know, we don't know who's talking. You don't know who's talking to your kid. And what are we afraid of in taking this shit away? I mean, literally, I'm speaking from my own personal experience.
The conversations are definitely very different from when we were kids.
Oh my God.
You know,
So,
the awareness
so
that the
different.
children have now, like everything, it's just like you're light years away from where I was at that age.
awareness and lack
just
of
so
awareness.
different,
You know what
you
I
know?
mean? It's like
Also,
they're
com-
aware in many ways,
Yeah.
but very dumb in many
Right.
Right.
ways too.
Can't
They're
survive.
not street smart. Yeah,
Not
no
street
survival
smart.
skills.
Yeah.
But they know a lot from 10-second clips. A lot of
Right.
little
Random
things,
information.
little random things
I meant
with
also
no
the-
deep context.
Yeah,
Right.
I meant
You
the
know?
danger, also
Well
the
said.
conversations you have with kids about like the things that can happen and what to look out for and what not to do. Like those conversations didn't happen because I didn't, you know, it was a different. We're the last phoneless generation to grow up.
I know.
The,
It makes me
you
sad. I
know,
mean, I do
like,
think,
we're
again,
li-
we talked about this before, like we do have the power
Yeah.
in our hands, but I almost think parents are afraid of their children. Like you're either too busy and you don't want to deal with the pushback, or like, you know, like Nikos, for example, he just really loves gaming so much. It's more about that. What our challenge is now is to create enough balance where it's not the sole provider of whatever dopamine he's getting, you know. So we have to mix it with weightlifting or playing drums or like just other stuff, like anything, please God, you know, playing chess, like just anything to get you away from that dopamine addiction, you know. But it is. I hope that that's true. I hope that that is like. I hope that the movement is real. Like, I hope that people get it. But this idea that human beings are we're just incapable of like making our own food or making
No,
our
we're
own.
not. We're
We're
not.
incapable of doing basic things that our grandparents, with none of the support of YouTube telling us how to do it or whatever, that they were able to do this, and we're pretending like we have to buy overpriced, chemically treated products from a poison grocery store. You know, like we don't have to.
Yeah, it's
You know?
so true.
It's like this is the new empowerment. I'm gonna call it the new radical feminism. I can make so many things. Zucchinis.
let's go.
Well, do you guys want to talk about like trends?
I'm still thinking about making a vegetable garden. in my
Yeah,
yard, but
see,
I
now
have
you
tea-
want to
I
make
mean,
one.
I've always
should
wanted
so do
one.
that.
You
But
have
listen,
those tiers,
I
right?
know,
You could do it
yeah.
on the tiers.
I totally
Everybody
do.
can do it. We can do it all. We can all
but
do
we
it.
have deer.
Put a little thing around it.
And they will just feast on it every day.
Yeah, just put a little.
a little what?
They have
like
little,
a net?
like a
greenhouse,
greenhouse.
yeah.
kind of
Oh,
thing
like a
around
natural
it.
greenhouse?
Yeah.
Like make it a whole
Or
thing?
there are these things.
It's like nets, right? You just
There
put
are
'em-
also these things like they kind of like if an animal goes past it, it kind of makes a sound.
Yeah.
You know, that's not mean,
Yeah,
but
I
it
know
keeps
what you
them
mean.
from your garden.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
or something
Yeah.
like a click
Yeah.
sound. Yeah.
A
Well,
barking dog
Yeah.
sound.
That would be. Are you gonna
Okay,
post
should we
something
do
in
this?
here?
Oh, I have
Should we do
been.
the Acme
I've got
Broker
herbs.
Challenge?
We've got a little greenhouse.
she
It's
already
happening.
won.
She damn it.
It's happening.
Do you have tomatoes?
I'm gonna do a
We have
vineyard in
cherry
my
tomatoes.
backyard.
We had sweet potatoes and other potatoes, but then Buddy dug them up, of course.
So-
And the garlic. He dug up the garlic. But yeah, you'd be surprised how fast they grow.
Do you have planter
It's really
boxes?
shocking.
In like those.
It's actually like this little greenhouse. Sam bought this cute little greenhouse thing, and it's so cute. And he just has pots inside of it. He's better at it
You
than
need to
me.
show me photos of that. I want to do
To be
that.
fair, he comes from a farming family too.
It's true.
So
He does
there's,
come from a farming
He knows
family.
about that
He
stuff.
knows his shit.
I grew up with farm. My grandpa, his entire backyard was one big everything.
Yeah.
Potatoes.
Really?
Oh my yes, carrots, potatoes, cabbage, berries on the wall.
See,
you know,
I
it was
mean,
a
I
whole
think we
thing.
should be doing
but
this.
he spent
Yeah.
his entire life in his backyard. That was his sanctuary.
Okay, well, I'm going to make this commitment to you guys. You can hold me accountable for it. I have a big underused backyard that would be a great place to
Yeah,
plant
it would
some
be a great
vegetables.
place.
So I'm going to do
That's
that.
so true.
gonna
That
do
would be a
that.
great place.
Yeah, I could even have chickens.
Oh,
Literally.
I really
yeah.
will. We do have coyotes.
they're a lot of
You
work.
got to keep them safe from the coyotes.
Yeah.
But there was just that thing passed that said I have to cut holes in my fence to let wildlife through.
Have a chicken coop that's enclosed.
Oh, yeah, right. It'll be fine.
Get those fluffy
Oh,
chickens.
man.
Oh
All
my
right,
gosh,
well,
our brother
the
has
cutest.
fluffy chickens,
God, guys.
and there's
They're
one
so
who's
funny.
an escape artist. So like we're at his wedding, and it was in his backyard, and he has this chicken coop there, and the fluffy chicken, it makes its way under the thing, and then like
Ran to the
his
wedding?
wife is literally just chasing it around the coop until
The
she can
fluffy
block
ones
it
are
between the trees.
hilarious.
It's so funny.
It's
Yeah.
the fluff on their hands.
Yes, it's the cutest thing.
I saw this meme. It was so funny. It was like it was a 1950s person, like black and white photo, and the person was like, "I can't talk about that over the phone, or I might be monitored." And then the other one was like,
Pulp
the other one was like
Fiction comes to
modern,
mind.
and it was like. It was like,
Are you
hey,
talking
hey
about those-
spy, what's a good recipe for pancakes? Like, because we have these devices monitoring us. Oh, hey, phone tap. What's the like what's
Are
the
you
recipe
calling
for
me on a
pancakes?
cell phone? Prank call, prank call.
Well, it's crazy because in the Diddy trial, almost all of the evidence is text messages.
Oh, and they're
Almost
allowing them.
all of it.
Well, you have to know when you send text. It's like
You think you have to know, but then you look at cases, and you're like, wow, like you guys. I mean, people get lazy. They
it's
get
just stupid to think that anyone I would never text a crime. I would never text a crime
well,
in my life. Like that's ridiculous.
it's ridiculous, but that is what people are doing.
But
so.
you know what? To be fair, Diddy probably thought he was so
Above the
untouchable.
law.
Yeah.
That he's like,
Yeah.
And also, like, how many text messages did they have to go through? How many people must text
thousands
Diddy?
and thousands.
You know what I mean?
Oh my god. Yeah. I mean, but it's the first case I've ever listened to. You can't see it. Obviously, it's not videotaped, but you hear the journalists who are in the room talking about it, and it's like it's hardly any witness test. It seems like it's all just text messages. It's like a whole RICO case based on text messages. Fascinating. I don't know which way that's going to go. It seems like it's like they've dismissed another juror. I don't know. It's probably. I feel like Diddy's going to get out.
I don't know. I mean,
maybe.
I think.
I hope he doesn't.
I don't know. I don't think he's gonna get out. I really
so?
don't. I think there's
what's
gonna
with
be
this
some
rumor
charge
that
that's
he
gonna
might be
pass.
an informant and working for the government. Is that was?
I've never-
We
I
don't
haven't
know
seen
what's
that.
happening.
I've heard that as a
Yeah,
rumor. He
yeah.
was kind of like an Epstein kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like he was videotaping celebrities.
He'll
and-
be.
Oh, but that's
Black
not an
taken
informant. That's
down.
more of a, I'm videotaping you to bribe
no.
you with this later.
Yeah, but
No,
there's
no,
somebody
working,
else
yeah,
above
working
him
for.
who wants that for leverage. I think that the entertainment industry is pretty full of people at the top who manipulate people underneath them for proprietary gain.
Oh, like Tyler Perry? Have we seen that?
Oh yeah. Do you think that's fake?
I mean, look. I mean,
It's like, who knows? There's just so much
the
dirty
alleged
background.
screenshots, definitely look like he was, being inappropriate with someone who worked for him. And you see different arguments, right? Like some people are like, well, it's like there's nothing here that's really criminal, but then you're
Right.
like, but it is also a boss saying
Right, there's a
sexual
power
things.
dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. To someone who feels like maybe they need to continue to do this thing to continue to get paid, which is
Right.
also like,
It's also
it's
transactional.
tough because it's like, well, dude, you're putting up with it. You could draw a firm line and
Right.
say, look, you either stop this or I'm walking,
Right.
So I don't know. It's a little
So
bit
do
tough.
you think,
It's tough.
because there's been a lot of conversation too around like there's this podcaster named Maureen Callahan, who's I kind of love she's very pointed, very, you know, it's pop
Opinionated.
culture critique for sure.
Okay.
No, critique is the right word. But Bill Maher basically came out with this narrative about Cassie and like, well, if you don't want to, you know, in a post Me Too world, if you don't want to do an F off, you know, then don't, or a freak off, then don't text somebody and say,
I
want
do
to
it.
freak off.
Right.
Right?
I saw that.
So he did this whole thing, which was essentially a blame the victim kind of thing. Like, you have the right to walk away. Why didn't you? Maybe there's something in it for you. He called the greater good. Okay.
Well, I mean,
The greater
he
good
called-
being money or whatever.
Right.
Right,
Exactly.
well, but that-
but then when
lifestyle. That's what it is.
But when you and definitely the Diddy girl that says 50, I think 50 cents.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's
she was
lifestyle.
all about lifestyle.
She's like, I'm
She's
getting
like,
money. I'm, you
Yeah,
know,
You
there
gotta
you
pay
go.
my rent. You gotta
She's
pay my
totally
rent.
down.
Yeah,
My
it is
kid.
I don't even know
transactional
why
a lot
they
of the
brought
time.
her
So
on.
he just
Transactional.
called it what it is in
Well,
most cases.
yeah.
It is transactional.
It's transactional.
Of course
Prostitution is still illegal.
Yeah.
But then
It's legal in some places.
Well, yeah, that's true. But it's a gray area when it's like, you know, when you think men have been playing this game for a long time, like rich men and
Yes.
women who want their money,
And women
and
have-
then
Well,
women will give
have
them a
also
thing,
been doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
and then they
Yeah.
have that agreement. Like, that's something that's a tale as old as time. Like, I don't
Exactly.
know what makes it a crime, what doesn't make it a crime. How can either party ever stop it if you don't want it to continue? Whatever. It's like it's mushy.
It's
in there.
interesting. What I've seen
But-
is that because he used, okay, I'm not sure if it's specifically credit cards to pay for the hotels for the purposes of this freak off or these freak offs in different states. That's what makes it trafficking.
I thought it was
That's very odd, right?
transporting people across state lines that makes it trafficking. So, like, if I called up a girl from Miami and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna fly you
Fly
to
you
LA,
here, and I'm paying for this hotel
right,
in
to
LA
do this thing."
To do
That's
this
what
thing.
makes it
right?
trafficking.
Exactly.
Interesting.
That's what.
But
That's what they're trying to say.
But
so
you
like,
were saying something about. So,
oh no, I was just gonna say with well, what are they calling her? Like her Jane Doe name or whatever. I don't know.
Maybe Jane.
Maybe it's Jane. Okay, whatever they're calling Jane, who we all suspect,
Right.
is another person.
Right.
I think that because at first I was like, why would they even bring her on?
Yeah.
Because this, if anything, is showing that he had willing participants in this. Which I
mean-
think a lot of the messages with Cassie also implies, right? But
Cassie's
if it's to
the
get
only
to
thing
that
about
as
Cassie's, which was the Bill Maher's thing, was like not acknowledging that there is and this is what I was actually going to get to with the Tyler Perry thing. With abusive relationships where you're getting beat, this person's controlling your life, has your record contract, has like your future in his hands. He's love bombing you one day, he's bashing your face in the next day. Like, there is a psychological condition that's been well documented. Tina Turner, even Rihanna, when she talks about the Chris Brown thing, and the Shia LaBeouf's, that FKA Twigs, is that her name? FKA Twigs? Talking about being in an abusive relationship. Like, there are people who talk about the experience, the psychological experience of being in that. As it's, you think, oh, you can just walk away, but they have you so controlled and so confused that you can't do it on your own, or that there would be consequences or whatever. So, do you think that same thing could apply to a man?
I mean,
do you think Tyler Perry's dude has the same emotional concerns?
look, I am not with the narrative that women are always victims.
I'm not
I
either.
just do not believe that, and I think there
I'm
are a
not
lot
either.
of women who use the card of being a woman in a precarious situation to say, oh, I'm a victim.
Right.
But if you continue to put yourself, and I'm talking about, it's one thing if you're locked in a room and like this person will not let you out.
Right.
But if you hit him up regularly saying, please give me a freak off, please.
Right.
I'm sorry. You got to take accountability for it.
Of course.
If you're a woman and you say, yeah, give me that ecstasy pill.
Right.
Okay? What you do on that ecstasy pill
It's on you.
Is on you. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
there are so many people who come. Honestly, I think it's just, look, like I do believe that there is abuse in that situation.
Right,
and
right.
that is not okay. And
Right.
he should be in trouble for that.
Right.
But I
That's-
also
he's not
think
on
it's
trial for
important
that.
for everybody who plays a role in continuing the abuse, continuing the antics, continuing it, to take accountability. That's the problem with the world today. no accountability. It's all, it was because of this person, that person, this person.
Always blame somebody
Exactly.
else.
And how much money can I get from that? You know?
Right.
There's so many flaws in this. Our legal system is flawed because they let people do reckless lawsuits over shit that shouldn't even be in court, you know? And, you know, I think there's also this, like, this thing around creating victims instead of creating victors,
Yes,
you know?
exactly. So you know what this gets back to? This conversation that Rich and I were having about whether or not this idea of never forget psychologically creates victims versus this future now, which are like every moment is a new moment I can create, almost like forget. Or my preference, which is like kind of the landmark forum thing, is like everything that happened in the past happened in a marked period in time in the past, and everything that comes from the future is your invention. So it's like a mix of the two. That's where I stand.
I think it's a mix of the two. I think never forget is definitely valuable, but not in the way, don't let it define you, but take from it, learn from it, and make the future different.
Right.
That's what I think.
Right. Well, that's a great way to end. This is fiery. We didn't even really talk about real estate, but hey, we're living in a pop culture world, and we're really getting down to the bottom of it. What is
And
the
we're also
meaning of
selling
life?
houses.
Oh yeah, we sell houses too. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Under All Is the Land. We will see you next time.
Toodles. Under all is the land. Under all